part of the sponsoring of this event to make this a happy hour possible. So thank you so much to Elevare for doing that. As along with the Meme Center, the Executive MBA Admissions and FEMBA Admissions putting on this event. So this is what's really cool about this event, and where kind of the brainchild of it is that we've got prospective students at this event, we have current students at this event, and we've got alumni at this event. So it's a really cool opportunity for everyone to probably meet some people that they didn't already know and maybe don't see in their local chapters all the time. So for those that are prospective students, or you're a guest here and you're maybe considering an MBA, please come talk to Christy, who's a check-in, and myself, Shannon. We'll be at the happy hour afterwards too. And even if you're a current student alumni and you think that you might know people who could be good for one of our MBA programs, we're always here for you. We're happy to come speak at your company and things. So we appreciate all your support of Anderson and continuing to get great people into the program and into the network. So I'm going to turn it over to Jay Tucker, who's our Executive Director of the Meme Center. Hopefully some of you probably know him, seen him at events. Famous kind of guy on campus. And he's also a graduate of the full-time program. If you want to know about the panelists that we're going to be, they'll be speaking today, there's at each of your tables, just kind of some bio information there as well. But all MBA graduates from our various programs. So thank you all for being here as well. And I'll turn it over to Jay, and then we'll head over afterwards to happy hour.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah.
As Shannon said, this is the second time that we're doing this. I'm super excited about it because it's a great chance for us to have our little mini Old Home Week, right? Folks get to come back, reconnect, and hopefully if we continue to do this year after year, Anderson alums and other folks in the larger Anderson community are going to know that there's a place where we kind of hang out a shingle and people can get together, right? Equally importantly, it's a chance for you to learn from your peers in a very non-threatening, kind of off-the-record type setting. Which is always the best way, right? So a few ground rules before we get started. First, as you see, there's no amplification. So if you're having a hard time hearing me right now, I suggest that you just move closer. Open seats here, and over here in the corner, and on this side too, with no obstructed views. So if it's not seeming like we're talking loud enough, you're gonna have to use your feet to turn up the volume. Second, some prepared questions for these folks. But they're your Anderson alums, and from your perspective, future mentors and colleagues. So throughout the conversation, if you want to jump in with a question or a comment, just raise your hand. I'd love for this to be more like an ongoing conversation than just kind of a static, back and forth panel type situation. And third, as Shannon mentioned, and you should all have, I guess, drink tickets by now. We're going to do a happy hour to follow this. My plan is to stop our kind of formal conversation well in advance of that, but if the Q&A goes all the way up until the time we're supposed to walk over to the still, that's fine too. Right? So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to start on my right to your left, and we're going to have each panelist introduce themselves, starting with Alvaro.
Oh, now? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alvaro Llanes. As you guys mentioned, I'm actually a current student at UCLA. I got 6 months left, so I feel the home stretch coming. I'm here because I am a program advisor to IGPS. It's a communications and safety advice for children. It's a way for parents to track their children while giving them the independence that they need without the intrusiveness of a cellular device. We're currently into our first year, and we're actually doing a lot of things right now to grow and scale. The current issue we have is we actually don't have enough inventory to sell, which is a good and bad problem to have. So I'll be here to give you guys a perspective as far as coming into a company at a very early stage, the reasons why, and where we are now.
So before we move on, just come on, preview, just say it, right? So what was the opportunity that you saw that got you involved?
Yeah, so it's both personal and financial. Right? The personal side of it is I think most of us want to do something that we're passionate about, and that looks very different to a lot of people. But I think generally speaking, we all want to do something that either fills a gap or improves somebody's life. This obviously is one of those. I have 3 children myself. Don't let the youth fool you. I'm actually a lot older than I look. So it hits close to home, right? Having 3 children, and then there's the financial part, right? You want to be able to make money to grow the business and obviously make a living out of it. And wearables, if you don't know, it's one of those spaces. Actually, if you just not too long ago, the sales for the Apple Watch has surpassed the sales for the iPod at its peak, right? And the Apple Watch is only 4 years old. So there's definitely room, and that's where the market's going. And at the same time, you're solving a very important, very critical problem. And that's the opportunity that I saw. I think
Which is, and what is the problem? Be specific.
Yeah, the problem is children from 4 to 11, right? There's no, our ecosystem's changing as far as the Internet of Things, the exposure they have to technology. But somebody say 4 to 11, most parents won't give them a phone. Or if they do, the solution for tracking or the solution for knowing their well-being is a cell phone. The thing with the cell phone is you're replacing one risk by another, right? Sure, the cell phone's the less of risk, but now you're looking at things into like hacking, them being in websites that they're not supposed to. And what the watch does is exactly, mitigate the problem without exposing them to another risk. There's no info store on the actual hardware itself. So if the device becomes lost, it could be anybody's because there's no personal information, there's no data. And from the children's perspective, right, it's just the watch. They're not going to go on the internet. So it's really solving 2 problems at once, and that's what we're solving.
All right. Salome.
Quick question. So my kids are 22 and 24. Can I get those?
Sure. Yeah. We didn't discriminate. Yeah.
They might need extras.
Yeah.
Sure.
So my name is Samine. I am the co-founder and chief product officer of Starbutter AI. We're co-founded Starbutter about 1.5 years ago with a couple other Anderson alums. And we build virtual voice assistants that help people choose financial products like insurance, loans, credit cards. We're the #1 for voice and financial product space right now. And we jumped into this to solve the big problem we were seeing that intersected our backgrounds, and that is that picking a financial product is a nightmare, and it's really difficult. The internet is a mess. If you want to do something as simple as pick car insurance, you spent 1.5 hours of your Saturday afternoon, 14 tabs later, all you have is walls of text and long articles and suffocating long quote forms before they tell you anything, asking for all sorts of information. And it's everybody's dealing with this mess. If you are the head of acquisition for a financial company, you're competing with everybody else, and it's difficult. If you're a consumer, you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed. And if you think about the highest customer lifetime value segment right now, the millennials, that's not their world anymore. They're on Venmo, they're in Uber, in Snapchat, DoorDash. I mean, these are interactive, fast, quick platforms that they're used to. And here is the financial space doing the same thing for the last 20 years. It's just not going to work for this crowd. The massive opportunity we saw was the tailwind that came behind this, and that was voice. So right now, voice is the fastest growing channel by far of any other channel, exponentially surpassing desktop, mobile. And Google just reported that they are on, Assistant is on 1 billion devices globally. Amazon is on 100 million devices. And right now, 23% of all mobile searches in voice predicted to go to 50% by 2020. So the market is moving, the train has left the station, and massive opportunity for segments like financial health, other complicated products, to have something that people can actually talk to.
Now you're interested in class of?
13.
It didn't take long.
Hi, I'm Mireille Takashima Claremont. I was at Anderson for 7 years, not because I failed. I actually stayed for 2 degrees, so I got my MBA in 2011 and decided to stay on for the PhD, so I graduated in 2016. I'm part of Elevate Global Advisors, which is a sponsor. So what we do is we focus on cross-border market entry between North America and Asia. So the problem that we see is, as you can see in the news, Dolce & Gabbana screwing up their campaign in China. And you still see, or Mercedes-Benz did an advertising talking about the Dalai Lama in China. So still, today, even big companies with big resources are making these mistakes. And so even with a lot of resources, a lot of companies have challenges going into different markets. So that's what we help with. And we're a group of 10 professionals. 9 of us are Anderson. So that should
Right,
Speak
that
to-
speaks to the quality.
speak to the power of the brand. And we also have some full-time. We have global executive MBAs, executive MBAs, and a PhD. So we're also a very good mix of different programs. And I think that gives us this diversity. And I really enjoyed, meeting my colleagues who I would have never really known without these Anderson events. So I met them at a happy hour, actually, in Westwood. So, see, happy hours are important. So my background is in marketing. So my PhD was in consumer behavior. I focus on cross-cultural differences and what drives consumer choice and brand loyalty, specifically between Asia and the West.
And so can you talk just a little bit before we move on? Many people who pursue PhDs are really primarily interested in working in the academy, right?
Right.
Doing research, publishing in journals, stuff like that. It seems like you had a plan to kind of commercialize your credentials. What was your thought process there?
So when I first joined the PhD, I wasn't planning on joining the PhD. I just kind of fell into it. I took
Wait,
a-
time out. How does one fall into a PhD?
Amy drilled it.
Nice, good answer.
So I took a consumer behavior class with Amy, and she encouraged me to take one of her doctoral level classes on behavioral decision. And so I really enjoyed the class, and she and I started doing some research together. And I was like, this is really cool. I really like digging down into the theories, not just understanding what the bottom line is. And so after the PhD, I always wanted to use my knowledge to bridge the gap between, you were talking about bridging the gap, but bridging the gap between academia and the business world, as well as the East and West. So that was my motivation.
Hi, I'm Rohan Castellino, I'm the VP of Marketing for Iris TV. Iris TV is a video personalization and programming platform for broadcasters and publishers. So essentially, we're a technology which integrates with the media company's video infrastructure and uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to program content to users on a one-to-one level. So, some of the way the company got started actually was in academic, was in Anderson, and was an academic intern at the time. And essentially, the problem they're trying to solve, affects kind of like 3 groups. Video is one of the fastest growing forms of media, but most people watch it on YouTube, Facebook, and there's so much choice out there. So content curation, how do I find the stuff I want to find? And how do I find new stuff potentially that interests me? Publishers also are having a challenge with that too, because if they're creating all this great content, but people are watching it not on their own platforms, they're not making as much money as they could be making. And if you're an advertiser, you want to get your audience, you want to get your targeting, but you also want to be in a brand safe environment. So part of the reason why the company was created was, all right, let's try to solve the content curation problem. We want to be able to watch great high quality content, top quality journalism. So, these newspapers, these magazines, these broadcasters need to be able to make money by doing it. So the idea was, well, what if we bring that same kind of technology that makes Netflix succeed, YouTube succeed, Amazon, and Apple, which is like compelling user experiences, and let's license it to everybody else. So we're B2B software as a service. Our clients are like AccuWeather, USA Today, CBS. So if you go on a website, in this day and age, right, we all want different things. We're not watching the same thing at the same time. So essentially, we'll go in there to a video player environment. You'll choose the first video, but after that, our recommendation engine will decide what to show you next in a continuous stream. So instead of saying one broadcast for millions of people, we're creating millions of broadcasts for millions of people. So when you're able to program on a one-to-one level, you watch a little bit longer. So if you're a company which monetizes by selling ads, you watch 1 or 2 more ads per session, you're making more money. Or if you're subscription-based, getting higher subscriber yield from people who are there. So the company is now at 5 years old. I started there as a business development academic intern, doing research, putting things together, and now managing marketing and our next level go-to-market strategies in e-commerce and a variety of other areas.
So you talked about go-to-market strategies. For you,
Yeah.
can you just talk a little bit about adoption and how you approach getting enterprise clients? Explain about what you're doing?
Sure. So, the first stage when you start anything, anybody is a good client. You need to get as many logos as possible on your site. You have to convince the world there's a problem, there's a solution exists, and why they should try you first, right? So, it's really challenging. So what we did was we realized that every company or broadcaster or publisher has a video player. So there was a debate in the initial stage, should we create our own video player to serve our technology? Ultimately, it made more sense for us to work with everybody else. So we found all the major video players, created plugins so that we were agnostic. So we were able to leverage their network. So we went to one of the biggest video players out there is called Brightcode. And so we had a partnership with them. They helped us look at their clients. We worked in that way, while at the same time going over the top and meeting with our network of advisors as well to kind of get those intros, and just keep going on and on and on until we got somebody to say yes, and then incrementally just keep building upon that, get those case studies, get those logos on there, and then eventually, the biggest challenge after that is that once the market understands that there's a problem, there's a solution exists. The next challenge isn't a competitor that does what you do; it's those big broadcasters thinking that they can do it themselves. And then you have to deal with these longer sales cycles. So being able to then really understand your customer, understand their wants, needs, pains, fears, segmenting those out very carefully, and figuring out what do they stand to gain from your solution, which is more than just the technology itself. So the insights, the data, how are they going to get a promotion by using your technology to a point where they're advocating within the organization for you instead of you just pitching it, like a door-to-door salesman.
Love it. And that's the perfect segment of this.
Yes, not quite door to door, but I do work in sales. I'm an industry director for Twitter. I'm on the monetization side of the house, so I manage the team calling on automotive clients nationally, basically every major OEM that has a presence in the U.S. along with their affiliated agencies. I am a FEMBA graduate 2014, and here really to help talk to clients and share with them some of the future plans from Twitter and continue to get them excited about our solutions for their marketing and ultimately business challenges.
And again, same question to you in terms of dealing with enterprise clients in the particular industry sector. What are some of the things that you've learned through your experience about how you get those people excited about what you're doing?
Sure. I think to echo Rohan's point, it's ultimately about solving a problem, and that requires you and your team to be able to identify the problem, identify the right problem, and position yourself in a way that ultimately builds champions from within your organization to really tell your story for you. I think there's no better success than to sit down with a client and have them start parroting back the things that your team has been saying over and over, and you say, oh, right, you have been listening in those meetings. And I think where we're truly successful is where I see that happening, and ultimately that's a matter of identifying product market fit to the problems that these marketing leads are really struggling to solve for. And obviously there's a massive amount of choice in the market, and it's very easy to go with very big media providers that reach everyone on the planet. And so it's up to us to have a go-to-market approach that really sets us apart and doesn't say, don't go with the big guys, but says, do what you believe is right for your business, but here's why we are a really integral part of a solution to your business challenge.
So with that, I'm gonna ask my first question of the whole panel. But if, like I said earlier, I'm gonna just say it again, if you guys, there's still a couple of seats up here closer. So if any of you have problems hearing, or if you feel like we scrunched up by the back door, now's a good time to start moving. So